15 years ago, I wrote the first draft of a dark paranormal romance urban fantasy and then locked it away. Now I'm resurrecting it and rebuilding it from scratch. Welcome to the Project Darkness Diaries, Episode 3. Let's go. Hello, and welcome to a new vlog. Welcome to a new Project Darkness Diaries vlog. Welcome if you're new here. Hi, I'm Andrea. Welcome back if you're one of my lovely returning friends. It's great to have you all here. Welcome to Sunday. It's the last Sunday of July, and I really wanted to get one more outlining session, writing session, work session for this project in for the month of July. I'm really trying to do 2 a month and then vlog those. And you all seem to be liking it. So the feedback on the previous 2 has been really positive, and I kind of like the idea of documenting a whole book start to finish without mixing it in with everything else. So obviously I've documented the process of my previous 9 books, but it's just been part of the just daily and weekly vlogs, and I've talked about a bunch of other stuff while working on those. So I don't know, I feel like Project Darkness is special and it deserves its own series. So I'm glad that you all kind of seem to agree. So yeah, I need to get Project Darkness opened up. So I've got a few goals for today. 1, I need to cut down how many chapters are in it. I've got 24 chapters plus a prologue and an epilogue, and I've realized I need to trim that down. I think I need to trim it down to 21 chapters. So where are we at the road so far? The brief recap from last time. I am re-outlining the book. In episode 1, I stripped my original draft back to the outline, reverse engineered the outline of the original first draft, and realized I needed to scrap even that. I just needed to throw everything out. I haven't deleted anything. It's all still in my Scrivener binder, but it's all now down in a different section. I will be repurposing it. I think the next version of this draft is going to be a bit of a Frankenstein's monster of a draft. Going to be taking new bits and taking old bits and combining them to make a new first draft. So the original first draft is basically going to be, I don't even feel like it's a 0 draft. I feel like the new draft I'm going to create is going to be the 0 draft. So the old draft is the dead draft, and we're going to kind of resurrect that in a way into the Frankenstein draft. So in the last episode, in episode 2, I completely stripped back my outline. I emptied out all of the index cards, all of the chapter files in the manuscript section of Scrivener, and truly started from 0. I'm building back up from 0 faster than I would if this was a completely new novel that I wasn't pulling in bits from the old draft. I have written a whole draft, so even though I'm going to be rewriting this essentially from scratch, I can't ignore that I do have that original draft in my head, and I am going to be influenced by that, and that is going to speed up this process compared to if this was something that I hadn't written anything for or in at all. I re-outlined it with 24 chapters, and I'm still having trouble. I'm still having difficulty making the new outline work, feeling like the plot points just aren't quite lining up where I want them to, feeling like my original plot structure that I've used on all of my books isn't really going to work in this book. And yeah, I'm also kind of being guided now by trying to be more intentional and conscious of genre and also of word count expectations. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then on top of all of that, I would like to try to get to 2,000 words in this outline by the end of today. I'm currently at 415 words in the outline so far, and I do think once I get the chapter numbers cut down, and once I kind of start getting the shape of the outline figured out, I can then start going in and adding more to the bits, because some of the key scenes that I'm keeping, I know what I want that to be. Essentially, I'm aiming to get 1,600 words written today. And I really only want to work on this for like no more than 2 hours. So it's 2:10. I would love to be done with this and done with this vlog by like 4 o'clock. 5 at the absolute latest. So 1,600 words is doable for me in that time frame. I'm going to set a timer to get us started. I'm going to set a timer for, do 25 minutes on the timer. And I'm going to start off with working in the index card corkboard mode in Scrivener and getting my chapters condensed a bit from 24 chapters down to, I think, 21. So I'm going to run my numbers again, figure that out, get that cut down, and once I've done that, I'll explain why I'm doing that. Okay, I think I went a few minutes over the 25. I can't hear when my timer goes off when I'm wearing these. If you're looking for good noise canceling headphones, not sponsored, but I do highly recommend the Bose Quiet Comforts. They're also really comfortable, hence the name. Okay, so where are we at? We've got 22 chapters. That's the number I ended up coming to. I probably should cut it down even more. I could cut it down to 21 because I do now have an empty chapter. I've got a blank chapter 14. So I think I'm going to cut it down even further to 21. The number I got to was 22 and a half. So I was thinking 22 chapters plus a prologue and an epilogue, but I think I would feel safer with 21 chapters. Let me fix that really quick. Okay, we are now down to 21 chapters. How did I come up with that number? I get asked quite frequently, every time I'm outlining a new book, I get asked, how do I figure out how many chapters are going to be in my book? There is no like hard and fast like rule or guideline or anything like that. But the way that I've always approached it is I take my final word count and divide that total word count by a certain number of words per chapter. So I've decided I want the final draft, at least of this first draft, to be 90,000 words. That is going to be a struggle, and we'll talk about that in a minute. 90,000 words total, and then an average of 4,000 words per chapter. That gives me 22 and a half. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the 22 and a half, then the extra 1.5 chapters would be essentially 6,000 words. That's a little long for the prologue and the epilogue combined, but I'd rather aim for slightly less because I know the 4,000 is an average. I know there's going to be some chapters that are maybe around 3,600 words, but then there'll be other chapters that are like 4,500, even 5,000 words. I'm hoping 4,000 words per chapter will be my average chapter length. So I feel like 21 chapters is good. Is everything in the right place now? More or less. If I've got 21 chapters, my midpoint should probably be chapter 10, not chapter 11. I could move that. We'll see. I'm going to leave that for now. So how did I get to 90,000 words as my word goal? I am trying not to overwhelm myself with information about querying and going on submission and all the things that I'm still like at least a year, if not 2 years away from like starting the querying process. And I am definitely going to take some time once the first draft is done, and the thought of that being done by next summer, I mean, that's laughable. That's beyond delusional. But once I have a draft that is nearly ready to be queried, I will then be like stopping work on the manuscript and like really diving deep in what do I need to know for querying. So I'm not trying to overwhelm myself with too much information on that process right now, because it's just going to stress me out. I know me. It's just going to stress me out. But I have been watching some videos, and there's one that I will try to remember to link below. Meredith E. Phillips, who's another author tuber on here. I've recently started following, subscribed to her, watching her videos. She's fantastic. She has just gone through the querying process. She's managed to get an agent. She just did a whole series on her querying process, and one of the videos, I can't remember which episode of the querying diaries or chronicles, or I can't remember what she called it, but one of her querying videos, she showed behind the scenes of Query Tracker, I think it's called, which is like the program that you submit, or like the website that you submit all your queries through. And she did a really great breakdown on looking at the stats in Query Tracker and which books got representation and what their word counts were. And I was fascinated by that. I was keeping an eye on the screen for fantasy, and the majority of the books that got representation, the majority of fantasy novels that got representation, were in the 90,000 to 100,000 words, word count. So that's what I'm aiming for. I feel like publishing is one of those things where you have to expect that you are going to be the rule and not the exception. I'm aiming for this first draft to be around 90,000, knowing that if I set it at 90,000, it's probably going to be closer to 95 or even 100, but then it will still be below 100. I just feel like the draft that eventually gets queried needs to be somewhere between 90 and 100,000. That is just my gut instinct. If an agent then wants me to add to it, more than happy to do that. If I get a book deal and my editor wants me to add another chapter or two, totally cool. I would rather get a book deal and be told, we want you to add more of XYZ to this book, than not get a book deal because it's too long and they don't know what to do with it. So that is how I've come to the word count that I am aiming towards. The original draft, I did look this up, the original draft, the old draft, was 103,277,000 words. So it'll be a challenge, but it will be possible. So yeah, that's how I came up with my word count, and then I just divide that total word count by an average word count per chapter, and that gives me my chapter number. So there is no rule that says a chapter can only be 4,000 words, but I find that in all of the books that I have written, 4,000 words per chapter is roughly my average. So yeah, I've now got 21 chapters, plus a prologue and an epilogue. The prologue is going to be pretty short. The epilogue will be a standard length for an epilogue, I think. The epilogue is mostly just the hook into book 2, and one of the reasons why I'm trying not to look at too many like submission and querying and like those types of videos and like what to know for publishing a book, like I'm trying to ignore those because I'm just a little bit worried that like, what are my chances of getting a multi-book book deal? I can't write this story without it very clearly being book 1 of a multi-book series. In my head, I don't want to commit to a specific number, but I will say in my head it's more than 3. It's not just a trilogy, it is a proper series. I could do it in less than the number I have in my head. I could possibly do it as a trilogy, but that would be tough. Obviously, I know people get book deals for books that are like 4, 5, 6 books or more, but did the publisher like, I've not read those books, so like I don't know how book one of some of these series that I'm thinking of, I don't know how book one ends. Does it end where it could have just stopped there if the publisher was like, yeah, actually we don't want to continue publishing this? Or was it very clearly setting up multiple books? So I don't know. I'm gonna write the series that I want to write, and this is definitely going to be more than 3 books. It's more than a trilogy. So I'm gonna write that and set up book one for that. And if everyone passes on this because they're like, we don't know what to do with a book that, you know, I don't have a proven track record in selling fantasy. There's a lot of factors that could impact my ability to sell this, to properly pitch it to an agent or to a publisher. And I'm trying not to think about that right now, because if I can't query this, or if I get an agent but then they can't sell it to a publisher, then I will self-publish this. Like, I just have a specific vision in my head, and I'm willing to compromise on some of that if it means getting a book deal, but I'm not going to compromise or sacrifice that entire vision just to make this more of what I think a publisher would want. So yeah, anyway, that's another side tangent on the publishing industry, which just scares me. I think that's what I'm mostly scared of. Like, when I talk about being afraid of this project, it's more fear of failure and rejection, of this not meeting the expectations of a potential agent, of a potential publisher. I do think I can write a good fantasy novel. Like, I feel relatively confident in myself and my abilities to say that I can write a good fantasy series. It'll be different, it'll be a challenge, but I can do that. And I think if I self-published it, it would probably do okay. But I just want to see what I can do going the traditional path. So anyway, I don't know. I do want to talk more about genre, but I need to get back to work because it is now 3 o'clock. So I've got 1 more hour that I want to work. So I'm gonna set my timer for another, let's do 20 minutes. Another 20 minutes. And I'm working on plot arcs for 2 of the subplots. So I'm doing some mini outlining within the outlining. So I'm gonna get back to that, and then I can update you on those subplots and talk more about genre. Alrighty, it is, time check, 3:22. I'm not sure if I'm gonna meet my word count. I've ended up doing a lot more like plotting and outlining and like figuring out of stuff. So I'm up to 653 words in the outline. So now I need about 1,350. But I think I'm now at a point where I can just be like adding stuff to the outline. I think I've got the majority of things kind of figured out. What I've been doing is trying to figure out some of the subplots. So there's the main plot involving the main plot that I can't tell you about. So there's the main plot, but then there's some subplots. There's a subplot with one of the side characters who's going to have more of a role in the coming books, and this particular character is a really important character in the overall plot arc of the series. So in book 1, I'm starting to lay the groundwork for stuff that will become more prominent in book 2. So I've kind of given this character's plot its own inciting incident, plot point 1, midpoint / plot point 2, plot point 3, climax, resolution, and hook to book 2. So that's kind of the structure I've been roughly following. I last time was thinking about maybe I needed 2 main plot points for the main plot. I'm now thinking my normal plot structure of inciting incident, plot point 1, midpoint, plot point 3, midpoint is plot point 2, then plot point 3, climax and resolution. And then because this is a continuing series, I'm also adding a 7th plot point of hook to book 2. I think that is going to work because then the subplots are going to have their own 7-point plot structure. Almost every chapter is going to be one of those 7 plot points for one plot or another. Ideally, in the end, if I execute this correctly, it will not read as complicated as trying to describe it seems. So I've been working out the subplot for the one character and then also working out the like romance plot, and some of those plot points are the main plot points or are connected to the main plot points of the story. There's kind of a reaction within the relationship between the 2 main characters in response to some of the main plot points. So they'll be different scenes, but they'll be related, if that makes sense. So I was wanting, this was something I was thinking about since the last vlog on one of my hikes. I think it came up that I kind of needed to sit down and figure out what the main plot points and main moments for these subplots were going to be, because I don't want to get into drafting / rewriting book 1 and realize, oh, like I'm completely forgetting this particular plot line. So I don't want the romance or the plot line with this one character, I don't want these things to end up feeling like dangling threads or massive plot holes. I want it to feel like I know what I'm doing and all of this is intentional. So I've got that all figured out, and I have now plotted that into the main outline, and so that is how I'm now up to 653 words instead of I was at 400 something at the beginning of this vlog. So that's working. That's going really well, and I'm really happy about that. So now I think I can just start outlining. So some thoughts about genre, because that is something I'm really having to like, I'll need to have that nailed down in my head and on paper by the time I'm querying it. And this is something I feel like I have to be a lot more intentional about it in the early outlining and drafting process, because I intend to traditionally publish this, you know, fingers crossed, all things going well. That's the hope, the plan, the wish, and the dream. Whereas when it's an indie book, and when I know from the outset I'm going to independently publish it, there is a freedom to that. There's that feeling of I can do whatever I want because I just have to figure out how I'm going to market it. But I can write whatever genre I want to write. I can mix genres. I can do whatever I want. I make the rules as an indie author, and I love that about being an indie author. But if I'm going to query this one day, and if I'm going to hopefully submit it to publishers one day, I don't want to end up with a rough draft that just is so far out from what the expectations of a potential agent or a potential publisher would be. So I am trying to be a little bit more conscious about genre. I think that this is a combination of paranormal romance and urban fantasy. And I was looking both of these up. They are 2 separate genres. This is according to Wikipedia, by the way. So taking all of this with a grain of salt. And I've noticed this as well. They are 2 separate genres, but they are very closely linked. And I do feel like if you're going to blend genres, these 2 genres blend really well. I could write this as a straight up urban fantasy with no romance in it at all. What I was looking at kind of said that if you could take out the romance, and the story still stands, then it would be an urban fantasy. And I guess if you leave the romance in, then it just makes it paranormal romance. So I guess it's a paranormal romance set in an urban fantasy environment. That's what I'm working with. That's my starting point. There's definitely going to be a bit of dark academia, because I can't help myself, but more like academic adventure, especially in the next books. There are definitely going to be settings of like museums and university libraries and old historic sites and castles and things like that, again, especially as the series progresses. I am trying to be strategic, so I have started reading the book that I showed a few vlogs ago. I bought Matt Bell's book, Refuse to Be Done. It's a writing craft book. Matt is a professor of creative writing at my university. He's in my department. One of the things he mentions, and it is good advice, but he mentions limiting your settings, like not having your book take place in a million different settings. And he specifically references that it will make it easier to sell the movie rights. And he's not wrong. I do feel like that would be a factor. And I know that I've noticed this in movies and TV shows that are adaptations of books that I've read, where you can tell they have streamlined the story in order to not have a million filming locations, because the more locations you have, the more expensive the production is. Again, pipe dream. I've got to get an agent first, then I've got to get a book deal, then the books have to sell really well, and then maybe if I'm really lucky, I might get, you know, screen adaptation rights sold or something. So I'm just trying to plan ahead that, like, huge if one day it does get adapted to the screen, I don't want to have it set in a million different locations. So I'm going to try to, like, for each book, have it centered around like 2 or 3 main locations. Book 1 is all set within the same city, and then a few different locations within that city. With the other books, it's going to expand, but I think for each book, I'll still try to keep it limited. So across the whole series, the characters will travel to a bunch of different places, but within each book, it'll be a little bit more contained. So yeah, that's something else I'm trying to keep in mind as I'm outlining. So I don't know. It's been an interesting process, like slowly starting to work on this. There's a lot that I'm having to think about and a lot that I'm having to keep in mind, because it's different. It's different when you're not just intending to indie publish. I do feel a little bit more constrained by expectations of potential agents, potential publishers. It is a little bit more restricted, I guess is how I'm feeling. I feel like when I'm indie publishing, it is that feeling of I can do whatever I want as long as I can figure out how I'm going to market it. So I can do whatever I want with my romance novels. I just have to know how I'm going to spin it when it comes time to marketing it. But I can write a longer romance novel. I can go well above the word count of what is normal for romance. I can blend genres. I can do whatever I want, basically. But with this, I feel like I'm having to be more mindful and more intentional about word counts, about genre, about plot development. Like, obviously I'm caring about plot development with my romance, but if I want to totally switch up my plot structure or something, like, I can do that. You know, that's not a problem. It does feel like with indie books, you really can do whatever you want as long as you can market it. But when you are hoping and aspiring to traditionally publish, you do have to be more mindful of all of these other factors that will come into play eventually. And I'm trying to work smarter, not harder on this. So I don't want to let myself just have free reign to do whatever I want at this stage, because that's just going to cause more of a headache for me down the road when I'm then ready to start editing it and refining it to get something that is worthy and ready to be queried. So now that I know more about the editing process, I really want to take my time and be strategic and intentional with the outlining of the book, so that when I get a revised first draft, it is as clean of a draft as possible and will require a little bit less developmental editing than some of my romance novels need. And on that note, I'm gonna get back to outlining, because it is now, I talk too much. It is now 3:37. I'm gonna set a timer for 25 minutes. That'll take me a little bit past 4 o'clock. And we're gonna see, 25 minutes, can I get 1,400 words outlined? I don't know, because I don't want to just randomly copy and paste stuff from the old draft into the new outline unless I'm like really certain of it. But I'm gonna believe in myself. I'm gonna say I can do this. I'm gonna say I can get 1,400, little less than that, words in 25 minutes. Let's see how accurate my belief in myself is. Okay, I now have 2,000 words in the outline, 2,028. I have written 1,630 words today, so that's fantastic. And they're all new words. I did not copy and paste anything from the old outline, from the old draft. Obviously some of these ideas are things from the original draft and from what I remember of it, but they were all typed brand new with my fingers in this writing session. So that's exciting. I definitely took more than 20 minutes. I did reset the timer for another 20 minutes, and then I think I worked for another like 5 or 10 beyond that, but like I could keep going. I really would like to keep going, but it's just about 5 o'clock, so I need to stop. But this is just too much fun. My music has been helping. I think I've got a fantastic playlist for this project. It's not one I can share, unfortunately. I don't use Spotify. I have Apple Music, but I'm not using that for this. I use Epidemic Sound for my writing. I'm paying for it for my vlogs, so I also use it for writing, because you can curate your own playlist based on mood, emotion, genre, and so I can find like lots of just really great, powerful, cinematic type music. I have been using it in the vlog as well. So all the Project Darkness Diaries vlogs, I'm using music from my project playlist, and I found some new songs today, and they were just really getting me going. So the playlist is now an hour and a half long, which I feel like is really good, because that's probably the most I'd be able to like sit down and work on this, especially if it's just one of my weekend projects. So yeah, that was making a big difference and was really helping. Of the 2,000 words that are written in the outline, about half of the outline, half of the chapters are 100 words or more. So they're fairly well developed, whereas some of the chapters are only like chapter 9 is only 9 words, chapter 8 is only 17 words. So the next time I sit down to work, I will focus on the chapters that are under 100 words and try to get all the chapters up to 100 words or more. And then as I go forward with other outlining sessions, I'll basically try to get everything up to 250 words and then get everything up to 500 words and then get everything up to somewhere between 500 and 1,000 words. I would like to try to get around 15,000 words total in my outline before I start writing it. But I'm making progress, and I'm really liking some of the ideas that are coming up. I feel like I'm taking that original skeleton of the story from the original book, and I'm now adding on new bits, and the new stuff just feels like it's blending really well with the existing idea and is really strengthening the existing idea. Like, I can feel it taking shape again, but it just feels so much stronger and so much more detailed than the original version, which just makes me so happy. It's a good feeling. I feel like the last two vlogs and every time I've talked about this project, like prior to starting this as its own series, I've done some vlogs where I've talked about Project Darkness, and I feel like in every other vlog I have done, I've talked about how scared I am about this project and how much this project legitimately terrifies me. And I'm not feeling as scared anymore. I'm feeling a lot more of the excitement. Like, I feel like the story is revealing itself to me, and I'm getting ideas, I'm starting to solve problems. That's just it's just boosting my confidence. And like, I'm starting to feel like, okay, there's still a lot that I don't know. There's still a lot of questions that need to be answered, but my brain is answering those. Like, I'm starting to get some of the answers, and like, new questions are coming up as other questions are getting answered, but that's all normal, and that's how all my other books have been. And so even though this project still feels really daunting and really overwhelming and more than a little bit intimidating, it is feeling a lot less scary. I'm sure the fear is going to come back, but for now, I feel like I am in that just really fun discovery stage. I am not a discovery writer, not in the slightest, but I have talked about being essentially a discovery outliner. Outlining is where I'm discovering the story. And I'm basically telling myself the story in 15,000 words. I love how my brain feels when I start outlining, when it gets to like this stage that I'm at now, because I'll get an idea and I'll start working in one chapter, and then that will spur an idea for another chapter. And so I jump down to that section of the outline and I write that up, and then another idea pops into my head, and it's just, I'm bouncing around through the outline to wherever my brain kind of pinballs to next. And it's just, I don't know how to describe the feeling. I really don't, but it's the best feeling. This is, I love writing. I love first drafting, but outlining has its own magic for me. But yeah, I don't know. I'm having fun. I don't want to stop, but I have to stop because it's now 5:02. So I do need to stop. I do need to like get on with the rest of my Sunday. I've got a lot of work I need to do tomorrow. I've got to switch back to Independent Hearts. We've got to get that book done. But like, I'm really excited about this project. Like, I just feel like I've had a huge breakthrough today. Like, I feel like I've had a huge breakthrough, both mentally and like psychologically, but also in terms of I've gone from a 400 word outline to a 2,000 word outline, and in an outline, 1,600 words is a lot. Like, I feel like almost half the book now is fairly well developed. It's still a rough outline stage, but it's way better. I think cutting the number of chapters has changed the structure and strengthened that as well, so that feels good. So yeah, I just feel like a lot of progress has been made, and so because I'm feeling more confident with the story and the structure and all of that, I'm now feeling more confident in my ability to actually do this project. So huge breakthroughs all the way around, multiple breakthroughs. It's just such a good feeling when the story starts to work. And I know it's going to change. I know it's going to change. It's like I'm going to have days where it's not working, and I'm going to have days, and there will be vlogs again where I talk about how scared I am by this project. But today I'm not scared. Today I'm excited, and I'm grabbing onto that with both hands. And I'm hanging on for dear life. I want to hold on to this excitement because it's a really good feeling. So I'm happy. I feel like it's been a while since I've like felt this excited about a project. I'm starting to feel like at the end of this year, like I just filmed my mid-year reset, and that will have gone up on Monday. This vlog's going up after that one. In the mid-year reset, I was talking about like highlights of the year, and I do think at the end of this year, making the decision to start working on this project again in a strategic and focused way is going to be one of the highlights of 2025. Like all the fear I've been feeling, it's still there. It's still in the background. I know it'll come back to the foreground again, but today has been the confidence boost I needed where this project is concerned. Like, sometimes as a writer, you just need that validation that you know what you're doing, and the story will speak to you. It will work with you. And I feel like the story hasn't been speaking to me the last few times I've sat down to work on this. The last several times I've sat down to work on this. I feel like, honestly, this is the first time the story is really speaking to me since I've started picking this back up. Like even going back to 2013 when I started outlining the whole series again, it was still like there was this wall that I couldn't break through, and I feel like I'm starting to break through that wall today. Today's the first day that it's felt like I think I know what I'm doing. I think I can do this. So I'm very grateful for that validation and that confidence boost. So I'm going to wrap this vlog up here. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not subscribed, especially if you want to see future episodes of the Project Darkness Diaries. More are coming soon. I am going to try to do 2 of these a month. There might be some months where you get a bonus 3rd one. So let me know your thoughts on this. Let me know your thoughts if you're a writer. Do you get that feeling where it feels like the story is speaking to you finally? Like, can you relate to what I'm saying? Let me know I'm not alone, because it's such a great feeling. I don't know what other question to ask. Feel free to just respond and talk about any aspect of this vlog that you found interesting. Let me know if you're a reader. Do you read paranormal romance? Do you read urban fantasy? Are there any like good paranormal romance and or urban fantasy novels that you think I should read? I know I've read some, and some of my favorite books fall into one or both of those genres. Some kind of combine those genres. But I'm always looking for like new ones to like put on my radar and add to my list. So give me your urban fantasy and paranormal romance recommendations in the comments. And you can leave me some like magic and star related emojis. And yeah, I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna be buzzing for the rest of the night, but I'm gonna go now. And I will see you all very soon in the next vlog. Thank you very much for watching this one. Bye. Such a good day. I'm so glad I sat down and did this today. This is your sign. If you're resisting your project, don't resist it. Sit down, work on it. Most of the time it feels like you're banging your head against a brick wall, but every now and then you hit a day where it just, that wall comes down and everything starts working. And it is so worth it. So just keep chipping away at that wall. It will come down eventually. Okay, bye.